Yesterday, personally, I learned about the roles of feminism because I think I've been perceiving feminism in a different way. But I think yesterday I got a clear definition, like the clear part of what feminism is. Then I learned about how to form goals and objectives. I don't know who was a facilitator in that session, but at least I recall I got something about it. And I learned much about leadership. Thank you very much.
I learned basically about the principles of leadership, mostly in the feminist transformative field. And from the many principles, the two that really caught my mind were inclusion and sharing power. So basically, I came to realize that if you really have to influence the people around you to see how you can bring about transformative leadership, you have to include them to have their views actually heard, like give them an opportunity to see what they think about how you can achieve the goals you have in this kind of leadership. And then you have to do sharing of power so that you don't be the person to actually do most of the stuff. As in, you have to do as a team, work as a team to see how you can bring about this.
The young leaders are so very much excited to learn more about feminism. And somebody else said they learned about the Action 8 principles of feminist leadership. Another person told us they learned to be responsible, transparent, while they use power, and always be accountable. Then they also learned to be positive feminists and respect everyone no matter their gender. Somebody else learned about what a feminist is, and they were also told anyone who seeks for gender equality, regardless of their sex, is. And then they were told about the principles of feminism, and also learned to dream big.
Digital advocacy is the use of technology to galvanize people towards a cause, whether it's a policy or a product, So in other words, some people can say that it is an organized effort to influence public perception. For example, we are in a feminism leadership, and as a feminist, there are things that you feel are not going right. Maybe in regard to gender, maybe in regard to the rights, in regard to policies and all that as a feminist. So now we are seeing that digital advocacy is just the use of technology to say that we galvanize people towards a cause. So now the cause is what exactly you want to achieve as a feminist. So I've already given you an example that it can be about policy making, when you want to influence for policy making, when you want to speak for people, when you want to address maybe the loopholes that are within human rights and all that. Think it like whatever you think about that you feel, you can use technology to see that you galvanize it. So now, there are very many ways that we can see that we push digital advocacy. So when we think of digital advocacy in this way, like I've just told you, you realize that we can see how groundbreaking can be exercised, in regard to maybe the civic muscle, maybe pushing for policy reforms and making a world a better place, because we all want to be in a world that people are really informed, in a world that people are really not oppressed, in a world that people are really, we are all on the same level, right? So now, as a feminist leader, how do you tell a story? What are the key things that are supposed to be in your story? If you heard me very well when I was trying to take you through how you can do a successful digital campaign, you remember those things very well. They're not so different when you're trying to tell a story. How do you tell a story? at the end of the day, can it influence something? Can it have a call to action? Yeah.
Something about sex, please. What do you understand by the term sex, in your own opinion?
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Joseph. Sex, according to the way I understand sex, it means different. Yeah, it means like a male and female. Like it means status, like different status. This is what I understand by the word sex. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you, status. That is so wonderful. And any other person? Please, let's make it our conversation. Let's make it participatory. Any other person?
Sex refers to a person's physical characteristic at birth. Let me say female or male, like that. She's female, she's male. That's what I refer to as sex, like that. Characteristic at birth, that physical characteristic, how that person looks like at birth.
Freedom, liberties, and opportunities that women have, especially the opportunity to be treated equal, to give the same legal rights as men. You're right. Every woman and girl has sexual and reproductive rights. You're right. And then we invite Lucy.
So much, Regina. Good morning, team. I hope we all had a very good night and we're having a very good morning. So we are going to briefly look at leadership for social transformation.
Are you all listening? Leadership, according to the way I understand leadership, is leading a particular group or an institution. It's leading a particular group or an institution. This is leadership.
Basically, I love defining leadership as anybody or entity that always goes ahead of the subjects. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a person. So any body or entity that necessarily gets ahead of others is a leader.
Leadership has the ability of an individual or a group of individuals to influence and guide followers or other members in an organization.
Leadership is the ability to inspire a team to a certain goal. Actually, this is a very precise and direct answer, which is a very correct definition of leadership. The ability to inspire other people, other teams, other groups, so that you can, go together as a team towards that desired goal that you all looking for. Someone said the heart of leading people, all call it giving direction. Yes, that is true. Leadership is the ability to inspire a team to achieve a certain goal. Beatrice said leadership is a process of social influence which maximizes the effort of others towards the achievement of a goal. Thank you so much, everyone. You all have a very, very clear understanding of what leadership is. And now I want us to look at what feminist leadership is. Again, it's still, about the ability to see how things should be done, but this is now the heart of motivating group of other young women, other feminists, even other men to take lead towards achieving gender equality, equity, dismantling patriarchy and all its forms. So I want us to go ahead and look at how to become an effective feminist leader, or how to become an effective leader in our different communities, our different entities that we are in, and achieve the goals that we desire. So as we aspire to become leaders in our different capacities, to become feminist leaders, it is important that young feminist leaders should be able to have personal masteries in order to become great leaders and influence change. And personal mastery in this case, we are talking about the ability to define one's principles. As an individual, you should be able to define your principles, your purpose, your vision, your belief, your commitment, and the knowledge of yourself. Because then if you know about to keep time, I'm going to go ahead and share with you. Social transformation means the process of change in all aspects, from culture to relations, from politics to better economy, from the way we think to the way we live. For example, about 30 years ago, killing of twins was normal. If you give birth to 2 children at the same time, they kill them. It was a bad thing. But today, that is a blessing. So that was a cultural shift. It was a cultural change in the way we lived. And also, we remember yesterday we had a conversation around the issues of women's rights. About that if we look back several years ago, things were done differently. Things were not done the way they had being done right now. So it's because of the transformation, the social transformation that we have had over the years. Another example we can look at is that how technology has grown. About 20, 30 years ago, we didn't have phones. People used to write letters. People used to walk to take information. But now we have cell phones. It's just in a 1 minute thing to have your information across. So that is what is called social transformation, the process of change in the way that we live, which varies across different aspects, can be cultural, social, political, economic, and also technological. So the relationship between leadership and social transformation is that, as we see here in the middle, is change. So that means that for us to be able to achieve social transformation, there is going to be change. And social transformation starts with an individual, because you have to first change yourself, then you're able to change your group, the group that you're in. Then later you can be able to change the community. It's a process. You cannot wake up one day, then you expect something to change in the community when the individual people in that community are not doing things to change. Chicken. Okay, so I'm going to share with you a short story about the eagle who thought he was a chicken. A man found an eagle's egg and put it in a nest of a barnyard hen. The eagle hatched with a brood of chicks and grew up with them. All her life, the eagle did what the barnyard and chicks did think, and she was a barnyard chicken. She scratched the hearth for worms and insects. She clucked and she would thrust her wings and fly a few feet into the air. Years passed, and the eagle grew very old. One day, she saw a magnificent bird above her and in the cloudless sky. It glided in a graceful majesty among the powerful wind currents with scarcely a bit of its strong golden wings. The old eagle looked up in awe. "Who is that?" she asked. "That is the eagle, the king of the birds, and her neighbor. She belongs to the sky. We belong to the earth, we the chickens." So eagle lived and died a chicken, for that's what he thought he was. So I understood that unless you try something out, something you cannot succeed. Yes, if you don't get out of your nest, you don't get out of your comfort zone and try something out, then you cannot be able to succeed. If you don't get out of the situation you are and take lead, then you lead into doing something new, then you're not going to succeed. Someone says our company affects how we live. Yes. Because the eagle grew up and stayed with the chickens all her life. She thought she was one of them. So as leaders, we should choose our company wisely. We should choose people that will be able to motivate us and help us to grow, to be better versions of ourselves, to be better leaders. Someone said, yes, I understood that we should look beyond your situation. Yes, it's important. Sometimes, like I said, you are born in a certain lifestyle. You are ascribed to it by birth, but that doesn't mean that you should actually remain in that situation and not get out of it. You should always find ways of getting out of it and be becoming a better version of yourself.
Yeah, me according to the story, first and foremost, we know an ego as a very strong bird, but the environment it grew in was of hens like chicken, and chicken in poultry are very weak animals. Not that like they are not that weak, but they are not as strong as the eagles. So back to life, it's like the environment we are in has a very big influence on our lives. So what we should always do is think beyond the box. We shouldn't look at, let me say, just looking for today's food. Let me say I just want to be this because the environment I'm in is not very developed. So why should I even overtoil? You should think beyond the box because the environment is going to squeeze you and put you to a certain way of thinking that requires you to work very hard and think very hard to live a certain kind of life. Thank you.
But democracy and equality, I'm going to make it kind of a lecture so that it is faster, but we shall, of course, at one point have discussion. So democracy, what is it in your own words? In one word, democracy. Okay, so we are saying democracy is it's defined as a form of government where people choose or give consent to individuals to govern them, right? That's why I think we've so far heard of this. And when people hear about democracy, they think about elections, they think about issues of good governance, they think about leadership, they think about the majority, the voices of the majority. Yeah, they think about the winning parties. Very briefly, we know democracy is not a new thing, but of course it started in the ancient Greeks of the Athens in the 5th century. That was even before Christ. You remember even when Jesus was doing his work, I think the principle of democracy kind of was also used in certain things that he used to do. Talks about unity, for example, in Switzerland, where citizens representatives, they choose their representatives and make governance decisions. This, of course, relates to elections. And then we have the constitutional democracy, which talks about the structures, powers, and restrictions of governance. As in, if you look at the Ugandan constitution, I know lawyers are in this house. I don't want to get deep into that, but we know our constitution that gives us the power, to do the right thing. Chapter 1 talks about power belonging. Article 1 talks about power belonging to the people. Look at the principles that for us in this session wants to link these principles to our, it's not far, of course, from the feminist principles. Like they told you yesterday, the feminist principles were identified basing on the different legal instruments or consultations with different documents that exist. So even as we look at democracy, we will not forget about transformative leadership. We will not forget about feminism or gender or equality and all those components that we've looked at before. You will find them all falling within these principles that we are talking about. So one of the principles that we have is equal participation and also human rights, by the way. Sorry to forget. So we have equal participation, where all persons participate in decision making. This still relates to inclusion and non-discrimination. The Constitution of Uganda is very clear about that, about inclusion and non-discrimination. And that's the strive of feminists and women, the strive by women, by feminists to bring about equality between men and women, but emphasis being made on the participation of women and empowerment of women in other political, social, and economic fields. There is rule of majority rule and minority rights. We've talked about that. At the beginning, I told you about the conventions that exist. The conventions, we have the policies, or we have the conventions that also looks at the rights of the minority. When you look at that of persons with disability, those are the examples of the minority that we are talking about under the rule of law, right? I'm going a bit faster. Let me know if you have any questions, please. And then the separations of power. Under good governance or democracy, we have the separation of powers. The roles and responsibilities are very clear, that who is supposed to take on which responsibility, who holds which power at what point, who makes what decision. Like if you look at in Uganda, we have the 3 arms of government. All those relates to the separation of power in Uganda. Okay. The respect for fundamental human rights. We've talked more about fundamental human rights. So under democracy, we have that fundamental human rights are supposed to be respected. And when you look at our chapter 4 of the Constitution, it provides for all this. When you look at Article 33 of the Constitution, which specifically deals with the rights of women in Uganda. So based on the information and experiences that you have, I want you to challenge your question yourself. Does Uganda's democracy ensure the respect of fundamental human rights?
Something small. I think to some extent, like you explained, it's true. But also I've seen in a number of districts where women also take up even, to contest even in positions that were initially thought to be for men, and yet they are really legally not, only for men. For example, in Pade district, where I come from actually, Aru North as a female MP, and then the other side as the male, then we have the overall woman MP. So as much as I think people seem to think that the other position is only for the men, some people in some areas actually do know that it is not only for men, but again, it trickles down to the fact that now some women shy away from competing with men because they think the race is more tougher when when you compete with the men rather than when you compete with fellow women. So I think more need to be done, to encouraging and always, supporting women to be able to take up the different leadership positions, regardless of, for as long as they qualify, because you never know, you can be able to actually go through. Still, again, about the previous 5 years term that just ended, the person who went through was someone who just came, from nowhere. She was just a social worker. She just came and she had never even participated in politics. And then she defeated someone who, people who have been in the race for 10, 15 years, and she won. So it is really possible. We just need to be able to have the right attitude and nudge to take up such positions and participate in the elective leadership or even in other aspects of leadership.
Opportunity? Yes, about women getting involved in the leadership, especially MPs and others. It's not actually on the national election, but even it happened in our university last year, because even we had a girl who was also contesting to be a guild president. And now if you try to inquire from other ladies, even we as women ourselves, sometimes we underlook ourselves, because when you go to campaign to a certain, let me say to a girl, to somebody, to a lady, the person will say, a fellow lady cannot be a guild president. So there's a way they tend to underlook themselves instead of supporting each other to come up. Now, that one alone creates fear. It creates fear in us, so even if you want to really participate, you really have that feeling, you really want to go for a certain post, you begin to say, no, people think that is for men, and even if I go, I'll waste my time. So I think we really need to encourage women, we need to empower them, we need to give them that that strength, we need to really find a way of really encouraging them so that they can come up. They should stop underlooking on themselves, and not only that, even current, let me say, during the election of the speaker in the guild, still in Good University, we happen to have like the first female speaker. The way some people were reacting was not good, and even up to now we still have that issues. It's just a long story now. But now we just need to encourage women. We need to bring them up. We need to erase those thinking. It is not right, because I believe that everything that a man can do, a woman can also do as a leader. You find that even sometimes a woman is performing the leadership responsibility better than a man. So we should find a way of lifting them up. Thank you.
Just like my sister Winfred has said, I am just here to confirm that sometimes some of us as men have accepted the gender equality, but ladies are not accepting that they can do what men can do. We also had previously a lady contesting for guildship, but we were strong supporters for her as men. But most of the ladies were like, we cannot rally behind a fellow lady. Therefore, we still need a lot to make these women realize that they are equal. As for us men, we have changed our minds, but the ladies have not yet changed their minds. Thank you.
So why are the ladies' minds not changed as yet? And what can we do?
In fact, for me, I just think the awareness. In fact, we need to create more awareness to these ladies. They are not yet much aware, or they are not believing themselves. They are not empowered. I think the best we can do is to empower them, talk to them, encourage them, organize more sessions of this kind.
It can either be positive or negative, beautiful, altering the state of something, wonderful. Change to me is an act of process through which something becomes different. Change is any alteration of status quo. It can either be negative or positive. Thank you. Change is making something different, alter or modify. Beautiful. You've all defined the change. The cause of change or a victim of change. I want us to brainstorm on this. Yeah, how is man a cause of change, and how is man a victim of change?
Human being cause change through creating war. And when you create war, still we shall become the victims who will suffer in the war. And then when you create war, it can bring positive and negative changes in the situation.
I wanted to talk about how human beings create change, or cause change, by, let me say, being innovative and putting up different measures that can cause impact in society. Maybe educating somebody about certain things. When you teach somebody about certain things, like you've taught us, you're creating change, because when we know, we're going to spread it outside to the society, and literally we're going to change. We're not going to act like we've been acting before. So that's one of the way humans cause change. Then like we were talking about in universities, putting up rules, all the laws and stuff in guild. We say we're putting up, let me say, certain rules against sexual harassment. If this happens like this to a certain gender or what, maybe a lecturer tries giving marks for sex and stuff, the lecturer will be maybe someone and stuff. And then how humans become a victim. The victim, like, we are going to benefit, because many people take it that being a victim of a certain thing literally is bad. But at times you can be a positive victim, because if you create change and the change was positive, it means literally, even if I would suffer sexual harassment at a certain point, but then we put up certain rules, I won't suffer. So that's my understanding. Thank you.
Yeah. So there was a time when the population growth was constant. In other words, there was a high rate of birth and a high rate of death, because things like immunization were not there. So at some point, man discovered immunization, and so the rate of death of young children actually reduced. So that was some kind of change. However, the rate of giving birth remained the same. So the population growth actually increased at a very high rate. So then man decides that the population is growing very fast, and so the resources that man uses are going to actually become extinct. So what man did, discovered family planning. And so people started using it, and the rate of giving birth reduced. And as well, the population growth reduced, but people survived longer because there were things like medicine, things like agriculture actually improved along the way. And so man was able to maintain the population. However, here the problem is that some countries have actually used a lot of family planning, and so they give birth to like 2 children. There, it means that the number of people who are growing actually increases, and so the people in the late ages of 60s and above actually are more than the youth. So it means there is not enough manpower for them to do with active brains and active bodies. And so that actually affected man somewhere in the wrong direction. Hence, they have to recruit manpower from the other countries. So that was my submission.
There are forces of change. We have vision. Your vision can bring about change. We've talked about your visioning yesterday, what you envision for the future. So your vision determines the change that you should choose to make as an individual or as a leader or as a community. There are policies, I've just talked about it. Technology can force you to change. We've now changed. Our earlier plan was to have these physical engagements in universities, but because of the pandemic, we had to use technology because of its availability as well. Seasons, you've seen the season under which we are. Globalization, making the world now a smaller village that that you can reach anybody anywhere. We've had meetings where we bring people from different geographical locations outside the country as well. The demography, energy, and resources, all this brings about change or determines the type of change that we need to choose. I have 3 minutes, Frank. We move? Right. I talked about the change you choose and the change that chooses you earlier on, so I may not do much. The change you choose are those changes that you have power over. You can decide that, okay, I want to you can decide that, okay, today I want to change my phone, or I want to leave this university for another university. You can choose such a change, but also there is this change that chooses you. That change that you don't have power over. For example, changing from a youthful stage to an other. They call it what? Changing from a youthful stage to my stage, let me say, because I'm no longer a youth. Actually, I always give people this example. So you can't choose that change. It's change that chooses you. So I've always told young people that you will not stay a youth for the rest of your life. There will come a time that the change will come, and you will change from being a youth when you will not become the guild president of that university, neither will you remain the minister in that university for the rest of your life. So such changes will come, whether you choose it or not. Actually, it will come without your choice. So you need to prepare for those changes. Where do you want us to be at the end of the day? Where do you want to go? The second last slide. Where do you want to be? For Primus in the room, we have participants from Kumu University and Gulu University. These are honorable members in the guild in various positions of vice guild presidents. We have ministers, and we'll have members of parliament from these institutions. So we've been very grateful to have their time, like I said earlier on. And we've covered a number of sessions that brought us to the close of the day today. We did analysis and understanding of feminism, and demystified a number of myths around that, and then cleared out the wave and gave them and shared with, they also shared with us their understanding of what feminism is, what transformative leadership is, and then we were able to bring it in the social transformative perspective to see how they can be transformative leaders and bring social change within the communities that they will be reaching out to.
I think by nature and design, we are created to be a fair continent, nation, and world. But a few of us tend to make it a little harder for others. And why I love feminism so much is because for me, feminism is about consensus. Feminism is about justice. Feminism is about equity. Feminism is about meritocracy. And feminism is about ensuring that we do not have discrimination within society. That's why feminism and transformation are joined together. And I think that's why we call this a feminist transformative leadership training. Because if we do not have injustice, if we do not have discrimination within the institutions of higher learning, it means the men and women who get out of those institutions of higher learning will not practice injustice, will not practice patriarchy when they get out of societies. And of course, what is painful is that when we go through a system of torture or a system of patriarchy, knowingly or unknowingly we become patriarchs, whether we are women or men. So it's not that the patriarchy that we talk about is only promoted by men, but also some women are more patriarch than men, and that's a point of reflection. But once again, for the organizers, we are extremely grateful and for making this happen. And for the honorable members, it's a pleasure to always hear your concerns, your voices, and what you have to share with us. Now, there are fundamental questions that we need to ask, and one of them is, now on the side of my sisters and brothers, the honorable members and guild leaders, of why you? If you have a pen where you are and a paper, you need to jot down this question: why me? Why me at this particular moment that I am listening or I'm being trained on feminism and transformative leadership? We are 45 million Ugandans or plus. There are millions of young people who are in universities. There have been so many good leaders who have come and gone, and others are going to come. Why you, at this particular time, particular day, particular moment? And just put 3 answers to that question. And for the believers, there is no other way that we are called by God other than putting us in a position to execute his call. It's a fundamental question that you need to answer. But for me, and for the global platform from our perspective, you are selected because you are an influencer. You are selected because you are a leader. You are selected because you have the mandate of the people within your university to serve them. And we feel that it's important that in the service of the people, in the service of the universities that you do, you add the skill to ensure that in your tenure of office and service, you do not only impact lives, but you transform them. And perhaps we can begin talking about the fundamental change that we have been yearning for. It is therefore prudent and therefore upon you that you do not betray the trust, first, of the people who put you in that position. Two, importantly, the trust of God, who selected you among the many to be in that position. And also our trust of saying and picking you among many and saying it's you that we desire. And that is a great task on your head. It is a great task on your shoulder. I am a strong believer in the parable of the sower. That when the seeds are sown in the ground, some seeds will fall on a fertile ground, others will fall on rocks, and others will fall on the roadside. You also need to ask yourself, what type of soil are you? Are you a loam soil? Are you a rock? Or you are a tarmac road? Or sometimes, I think when Jesus was speaking, by then tarmac were not there, so he was speaking about the marram road, which has some little sand and soil, that a seed can go there, and perhaps when people come and step, it will pass off. So you need to ask yourself, what type of soil are you? Are you a loam soil that the seed that has been planted is going to germinate and become a big tree where other birds of the air, and in this case, the human beings, will come and find shelter, find food, and others? Because you can also choose the type of tree you want to be, whether it is mahogany, a mango tree, a guava tree, what have you. It's my sincere appreciation that you are loam soils, and therefore we are going to see 100% of you taking actions from this training. And that takes me to my third point, that the biggest gap we have in the world is the gap of those who know and act on what they know. So we know so much in our heads, but then we do so little. And this is the fundamental challenge that we have in Africa and as a country, that amid this plenty, we are still beggars because we know so much, we know so many solutions, but we are extremely lazy to put them on the ground, or we are intimidated, or we do not want to put them on the ground. As feminists, as a club of feminists, you can choose one or two schools where you're going to start with staff and go to students, student leaders, and share with them what you know. When I was growing up, university students used to come to school to teach us debate, to teach us career guidance, to teach us leadership and a number of things. What has gone wrong these days? So I hope that you have done an action tracker, and perhaps as global platform and the trainers who have been here and the feminist fraternity can be able to follow up on that action point that you've put down and say, you know, this is what we agreed upon at the end of the training. How far have you gone? What are the challenges? What are the limitations? And how can we support? Because this should be a continuous learning. Like Mary was sharing, you cannot understand the feminist charter in 2 days. You cannot understand all the feminist principles in 2 days. You cannot understand the transformative leadership and what it means in 2 days. So I feel that we need to take action. So for me, those are the actions I want to see. I want to see you shifting power and saying, you know, this network is here. We have put in place a team that is going to be assessing issues of sexual harassment, and on an annual basis, a quarterly basis, we are going to run a campaign on sexual harassment and no sex for marks. I know you're not going to be liked because of that, because some of the ladies are beneficiaries of that. Some of the ladies enjoy that privilege. So you're not going to be popular, but you'll be fighting for a cause that is just, that is noble, and history will judge you right. So it's also my wish that I see power being shifted, especially after going through the session on feminism and transformative leadership. We should be able to begin pushing and shifting power, especially in our universities. Now, as global platform, we remain a center for you guys, where you can get mentorship, where you can connect with other universities, whether you can connect with other feminists who have gone out of school. But as a way of measuring the progress that we've made, if the pandemic comes down, we'll have an exhibition. And this exhibition is going to be followed by a scorecard. Of course, Regina will work on the scorecard because she's a technical person. And we are going to be scoring your guild councils on the parameters of how you have implemented this project or this training in your universities. And then we'll come and universities will compete and say we had 9 actions, we did 5. From the training, we have been able to shift power in this and this dimension, and the best university will be awarded in terms of leadership. And the worst university will be taken to the best university for benchmarking. So that's one of the things that we think we can do going forward. That conference, that exhibition where you come together as leaders from various universities. Maybe you'll gather the global platform in Apache or Kampala, or you can come to Kumi University if you want to host us. And for 1 or 2 days, we are comparing notes, but also we are assessing the performance of the Guild Council vis-a-vis the issues that we have spoken about. And of course, the scorecard entails some little bit of research around what you're doing. I look forward to hearing from the actions you have undertaken, and we are here always to support you. I wish you a nice weekend, and importantly, wonderful implementation of the wisdom, the knowledge that you have gained from the wonderful trainers. Once again, thank you. Thank you very much, the Global Platform team. Thank you, our honorable leaders. Thank you, the great feminists, for God and my country. I thank you.
I'm very full of today, and I'm happy to see each and everyone, the beautiful faces, the handsome ones. My morning was beautiful, my afternoon was blessed, so I'm happy.
First of all, I want to say thank you to the Almighty God for the great days He gave us to learn a lot from you. I also say thank you to the organization. It was a wonderful training. I enjoyed it a lot since yesterday.
Good afternoon, members. Really thank God for this training. So today I had issues with my power. My phone went off around 10. So most of the information after there. I hope you guys who had it had to pick something from it. And I'm so glad meeting students from different universities, people from Kumi.
Miss, I'm grateful to God for the lessons that we learned from yesterday up to today. Actually, I expected things that I never thought of, but I got to learn them. It's so impressive. They're like beyond my capacity, but I thank God for everything. I want to say you people are wonderful. As I say, the facilitators are so wonderful. Actually, the knowledge is big. And I pray that may God increase in this knowledge that will be able to bring change in our communities. You have inspired us, you've given us the knowledge. It's our task to take the responsibility and make sure we cause change to the people who are nearby us so that feminism will spread all over. I am humbled.
Greet everyone. My name is Joseph Loba. This training, and I must confess, I'm really very blessed. We will do it our best, and you will hear soon on the progress. I promise you, I'm really very blessed. That's why inside me, I just felt like this training should just continue. I love it. And thank you so much. God bless you. I have a great day, great weekend. Thank you so much.
A wonderful session, so much elaborative and very educative, I should say. So by name I'm Robert Chomo, and I'm a medical student at Good University, and I serve as the State Minister for National and Foreign Affairs. I want to extend my sincere gratitude to the members who actually organize this kind of training. because we really have issues that are pertinent about feminism, and we really have to actually have a collective contribution in this kind of leadership. And I really urge all the members who have taken part in this training that we go back and really have all these put into practice, and we see how we can really impact change together. Yeah, thank you very much.
Many people, we are many actually in the university, but I happen to be one of the members to attend this program. Thank you, the organizing committee. May God bless you.
From Kum University. I'm a Minister of Culture and Social Affairs. I'm really so glad for this meeting. It has not been simple because of issues of power. Sometimes power is on and off, and our phones are consuming power a lot. But only that we are happy that God has brought it to an end. I really need to appreciate you, the facilitators. It was not simple, but you made it. I'm really so glad. And I promise I'll be one of the ambassadors of feminism. I will have to practice it and make sure that there is change. Thank you very much.
I really want to say I've learned so much. I've learned many things. And just as a leader already, we will try to really make it practical. Let's not give up. We might really listen to people out there who really put us down, but let us strive to what we really think is the best for the community and those around us. I think I really request if we could really keep having this kind of a conversation, a training, not only for us, but different people. Let's also target different schools, institutions that we believe they can really bring in change the way we really need. Thank you very much. We'll still catch up. Thank you.
Who is your neighbor? Invite your neighbor. Flavia. Okay, neighbor Flavia's, I think Peter, you can come in.
Omiad Francis.
Francis finished.
Then I'm seeing Ochen Felix Anthony.
Also finishes because it is Peter here from my end. So Peter.
What of Namara Russia?
Okay. Now, guys, I'm in my bedroom. I'm having some fatigue. I am really afraid to turn on my video, but anyway, it's fine. Are you guys getting me?
Yes, you can go on.
We get you.
Yeah, thank you so much, team. Thank you all the new people I've met here. The likes of Omiad Francis, the Joseph, and the Rachel, the Jen. All of you people were really interesting people. The Florence, it's an amazing opportunity for young people to get together and share ideas that look forward to impacting our communities. One thing I know is every time you empower a young person, you're empowering the future, because these young people have energy that sometimes when they are not empowered, they empower themselves to do the wrong things. They say a tree can only be pruned when it is young and make a correction on it. At this age, I believe we have the ability to change, the ability to transform our minds. And I know that we are going to be the change agents in our communities. One thing I really encourage our young men here is look forward to a difference. And they say money is a reward for solving a problem. Many times we look for money, but we don't look for problems to solve. So I want to encourage young men in this age to start looking for problems to solve in our communities. When you find gender-based violence in the community, Don't look for money out of it. Look for a solution for it. I really appreciate the fact that Action Aid and GPU, the global platform Uganda, for giving us this opportunity. I travel a lot. I know by God's grace, I'm going to meet each one of you.